Hey guys, welcome to our channel. So we've been decoding South America, moved 1,500 miles to the east, and we got miles, kilometers, meters, yards, feet, centimeters, and inches. I think I got them all this time. And we did that because we think a quantum computer would take all those measurements and more and smash them together and run it as a code if it were going to do it. It wouldn't just stick with miles. And as skeptical as I was, this is actually going through, and we've got this to go through stock market and finance, and now we're on genetics. All right, so we're going to start with 1500. 1500, the first four numbers going forward, and that ends up being medical genetics testing, Baylor University, and it's a test code. Now I highlighted these because there's a few of these in here. All right. So 1500 is also biological sciences at the University of Missouri, and 1500 is also a hybrid gene selection approach to create S1500 gene set. And there's more, but we got to move on because I could go on all day with these. There's a lot of information here, guys, in this stuff. So then you move to 2414, and you get mutations in ADAR, cause Arcady goiters. All right. You also have 2414. You have medical genetics test details, Baylor Genetics Laboratories, and it's another test code. So there they are again. 2414 is also genetics program details at Clemson. And there's another university they can hit, and there's more. But we're going to move on to 0162, and that ends up being sarcomere gene variants act as genetic trigger. Genetic trigger underlying the development of left ventricle non something or other. But the disclaimer, again, you're going to find some Cerveza bug information on this. We're not promoting it. We don't believe it. And so view at your own discretion. All right? View at your own discretion. All right. Also 0162 is natural history and genetics of food allergy. And you also have 0162 is handbook of behavioral genetics. Behavioral, right? Don't know if I like that anymore when I see that. And there's more, but we're going to move on. And 4140 is next, and that ends up being small-scale nuclear extracts for functional assays of gene expression machineries. All right, I found that to be a little interesting. You also have medical genetics test details, Baylor Genetics Laboratories, and it's a test code again. So that's the third time they've been in here. You also have 4140 is 4140 NXS Midland Genetics. And you also have with 4140 nuclear science abstracts, effects of radiation, genetics, and there's more. But we're going to move on. I'll provide these links, by the way, guys. You can check them out yourselves. But we're going to move on. 1624 then is link 01624, long intergenic non-protein coding RNA. We've got those before. You also have 1624 is clinical genetic testing for Kallmann syndrome, and Kallmann syndrome ends up being a condition characterized by delayed or absent puberty and an impaired sense of smell. All right, an impaired sense of smell. All right, sounds familiar. All right, but moving on, you have were we still on 16? 1624. Oh, Yes, we're still on 1624. The TCF7L2 locus, a genetic window into the pathogenics of type 1 and type 2 diabetes. All right. You also have 1624 Swayman's Pediatric Neurology, and that's an ebook, or Principles and Practices, and that's an ebook. All right. Swayman's Pediatric Neurology Principles and Practices. And there's more. But we're going to move on to 1401, and 1401 ends up being gene results CRP, reactive protein in humans. You also get HLA-DBR0710 and DRB 1401 are associated with genetic susceptibility to psoriasis. All right, 1401 is also self-assessment questions for clinical molecular genetics. And there's more, but we're going to move on. I'll provide the links. And you got 6264 as Clinical Genetics Service Centers, a national listing. All right, so that is a whole bunch of clinical genetic service centers. You also have gene essentiality and synthetic lethality in haploid human, or it deals with human genetics. You also have 6264 is the Indispensable Genome Innovative Genomics Institute. Indispensable. Yep, that's what it is. All right. So there's an institute they can hit. Deals with genetics. At 6204 is also Index Medicus Genetics U2AF. Medulates poly A, length controlled by the poly A limiting element. And there's more. But we're going to move on to 0000 for zeros. What could that be? Well, how about PLOS Genetics, a peer-reviewed open access journal? You also have genetics in medicine, and that's about the editors. You also have Genetics and Genomics Next, and that's a Wiley online library. We got that in the last search. You also have Genetics and Genomics Evolution and the Genetics of Populations, Volume 13. So that's all just 4 zeros, and there's actually more. But we're going to move on to 7920, and that ends up being Genetics Dysmorphology, Rady Children's Hospital in San Diego. That's part of an address. You also have 7920 ABHD16A, add hydrolase domain containing GT, and this is a gene ID. You also have 7920 Human Genes and Non-Liberal Governance. And 7920, you also have DMEL /C67920, and it's a fly-based gene report. We've got those before, and there is more, but we're going to move on. And you got 0003. That ends up being Genetics of Male Infertility. That's pleasant. Also, Genetics of Alzheimer's Disease, an update. You also have Genetics and Genomics Next, and that ends up being Wiley Online Dictionary again. And you also get Clinical Genetics and Genetic Counseling in Alzheimer's Disease. That's 0003. And there's more. But we're going to move on to 8849, which ends up being Melanoma Genetic Testing, Ambry Genetics. You also get Test Cone Rod Dystrophy, via the KCN62 gene. All right. And you also, 8849, did I say 8894? Because I think I meant 8849. What the heck? 8849. If I said 94, I meant 49. 8849 is also advances in genetics. And 8849 is also molecular genetics of recombination. And there's more, but we're going to move on to 6285, which ends up being RNA splicing links genetics to disease. 6285 is also S100 B5100 calcium binding protein B gene, and it's a gene ID 6285. You also have medical genetics test details, Baylor Genetics Laboratories, and other test code again. So there they are again. I forgot to highlight that, but I should have. And 6285 is also molecular genetics of inflammatory bowel disease, and there's more. But we're moving on to 3400, which ends up being Bio 3400 genetics at Oakland University. Also Biol 3400 principles of genetics at CSU LA. Another university. You also have Emery's Elements of Medical Genetics, and that's an ebook. You also have population genetics in forestry, and there's more. But we're going to move on to 0950, which ends up being clinical and genetic analysis of 2 Wolfram syndrome. You also have 0950 novel human sex determining gene. And you also get Baylor's clinical rheumatology, and there's more. And we're moving on to 040, which ends up being diagnosis for all rare genetic diseases on NCIB. You also have the evolution of genetics, Alzheimer's, and we got that Alzheimer's just a little bit ago there. You also have Institute of Molecular Genetics, and you also have genetics and genomics of forest trees. And we got forest population before, right? And there's more, but we're going to move on to the last 3 numbers is 000. You end up with medical genetics and genetic disorders, 000, all research news. You also get rice genetics proceedings of the International Rice Symposium. I didn't even know there was a rice symposium, but apparently there is. And that gets you through going forward. Now we're going to come back, and you start with 3900. You get, because you don't have to take 000 or 040, so you start with 5900. That ends up being Bio 5900 genetics at Kingsborough University. You also get kidney cancer genetics testing, and that's a test code. You also get Becker muscular dystrophy genetics and rare disease. You also get genetics DNA test for breast cancer, draws criticism. And draws criticism. That's... Oh, and then you also get 5900 regulating gene regulation. And there's more. But we're going to move on to 0435, and that ends up being next generation sequencing of 32 genes associated with hereditary arthropathies and related disorders of connective tissue. You also have the genetics of multiple sclerosis, up-to-date review, and 0435 is also genetics, volume 4, page 232, and there's more, but we're going to move on to 8269, and 8269 ends up being VCV 000008269.5 ClinVar variation ID. It's a variation ID. You also get TMFM 187, transmembrane protein 187, and that's a gene ID. All right. 8269 is also test tricho rhino phalangeal syndrome types 1 and 2. You also have Journal of Biological Chemistry. And there's more, but we're going to move on to 4883. And 4883 is test Menkes disease and hereditary motor neuropathy. And it is a test CPT code. You also get mitochondrial DNA discovery in normal tension. 4883 is also sites, inversions, genetic and rare disease information. So there we got that again. Something about genetics and rare disease. You also have NPR3, I don't know how to pronounce that word, something peptide receptor 3, and Atlas of Genetics. And there's more, but we're going to move on to 7920, and that ends up being the Maury gene of Escherichia. Is an essential gene that encodes a I can't read it. I should have went outside where the lighting's better and I could see a BTA. Yeah, I can't read that word, guys. I just, hang on 1 minute. All right, I can't pronounce that word, so we're just going to move on. You also have communicating BRCA1 and BRCA2 genetic test results. So there's communicating for Danny's communicating, right? Big surprise, it's his map thing that we're doing. So 7920 is also science and engineering indicators, genetics and heredity. 7920 is also medical genetics, test details, Baylor Genetics Laboratories, and other test codes. So there's 4 of those we got. Now we're moving on now to 0004, which is an update on genetics of hyperurea and gout. You also have the genetics of the dystonias, and 0004 is also clinical genetics, another Wiley online dictionary hit, and there's more, but we're going to move on to 6261, which ends up being RYR1, ryanodine receptor 1, it's a gene ID. You also have genetics or genetic parameters for lameness and claw and leg disease. You also have how heritable is autoimmunity from Science Mag. And 6261 is also MTFRLC1CGT OST 6261 Lex gene trapped, a allele detail, MGI. We've got those before, actually. And we're moving on to 0414, which is the significance of Mendel's work for the theory of evolution. You also get Duke Children's Health Center genetics clinic. You also get genetic predisposition to high body fat, yet lower cardiometabolic risk in children and adolescents. And 0414 also ends up dealing with rice genetics and that rice genetics symposium that I didn't know existed. If you move on from that, you got, and there is more, by the way, I'll provide the links, but 2610 is next, and that ends up being Bile 2610 Genetics at Walters State Community College. You also get BSU Molecular Genetics. You also get the homeostatic regulation of sleep is under genetic control. And you also get the genetics of C9ORF72 expansions. And there's more. But we are going to move on. We're almost done. 2610 is forest conservation genetics, principles and practices. 41 and 2160. Yeah, or 2610. Yes, 2610. Forest conservation genetics, principles and practices, and there's more, but we're going to move on to 4124, which is MAN2A1. Mano, at some point we started coming back, guys, so we are going backwards. I may have forgot to mention it, but 4124 is MAN2A1 manosidase alpha class 2A member. You also get the genetics of small vessel disease. You also get the PMRA regulated PMRC gene, and it's a protein coding gene. And if you move on from that, you got 0051, the last four numbers coming back. And you get 00-H-0051 NIH Clinical Research Studies, Genetics of Tuberous Sclerosis. And we got that in one of our previous recent decodes. A bunch. And you also have 0051 is cotton genetics resources, and there's more, but we're going to let it go at that, and that gets you through going forwards and backwards in genetics. I said I was going to try to get better about only picking two things or something, but I picked four instead, so we ran 22 minutes. All right, that's going to be it for this one. Medical will be next. It seems to be running through just fine. So it's actually a surprise. I didn't know that it would, but it seems to be. And we'll see how the rest of the categories go, and we'll see what happens when we convert it to letters, because that's usually where we find our network user, right? Is in the letters, not the numbers. So I'm not really looking for one in the numbers. I'm going to be looking for one in the letters. But I might have to go back and relook at the numbers. Who knows? Who knows? I'm not sure how this is going to play out. But anyway, medical will be next, and followed by chemical. So for now, thanks for all your thumbs up, thumbs down when appropriate. If you're still with me and you get anything out of these videos, please thumb up. And thanks for all your comments, leads, feedback, and subscriptions. And thanks for watching, guys. And for now, you guys have a great rest of your day.